Hi, everybody. Dr. Colleen Sierra here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and the founder and executive director of Sierra Center for Behavioral Health. Here today to talk to you about, unfortunately, a kind of sad subject, but more and more of us know people who are getting sick. And some of us, my family included, know people who are dying from COVID. And while grief is very similar, regardless of what exactly is the cause of death or what exactly is the loss, there are some things in particular, I think, about COVID that make the grieving process a little different and perhaps a little more complicated. So I wanted to come on and talk about things that you should and should not say to a loved one who is worried about somebody who is sick or has lost someone to COVID. So, few things. I think, one of the things that is really normal for us to do as human beings, when something scary happens or bad happens, our brain immediately wants to figure out how to distance ourselves from that and how to make ourselves feel different. Like that couldn't happen to me. It's why when a parent leaves their baby in a hot car, it's why there's so much hostility thrown that way. 'Cause it's like, how could you do that? And that's so terrible. When the fact is, accidents happen. It can happen to any of us, but we want to put distance and say, well, you're bad or you did something wrong, rather than sit with the very unpleasant feeling of this could happen to anyone and I'm vulnerable too. So one of the things that I think we are prone to doing when we hear that somebody is sick with COVID or has died of COVID is to say, well, how did they get it? Were they abiding by social distance? Were they working? Were they following the rules? Because we want to did they have an underlying medical condition? Because we want to make sure that they're different from us, right? And so in our anxious attempt, whether we're aware of what we're doing, in our anxious attempt to make ourselves feel better, that we're not likely to get it, we wind up asking a bunch of things that sound really blamey, that make it sound like, well, it's their fault because they did this or they didn't do that. And nobody needs to hear that, right? When somebody is really worried about somebody or sad because someone died, nobody needs to hear that it was their fault that they got sick or that it was their fault that they died. So if you catch yourself wanting to ask those kinds of questions, just stop. Just stop and take a breath and remind yourself that you're human and you want to make yourself feel better, but that's actually not what you're trying to do right now. What you're really trying to do right now is support this person that you care about and grilling them with questions about how their friend or family member got sick or died is not actually helpful, right? Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing is that whenever somebody dies, we tend to offer these kind of spiritual platitudes. They're in a better place now. They're with God now. Everything happens for a reason. Things like that. And again, it's really well-intentioned. We're trying to make the other person feel better, but it actually doesn't make them feel better. I once heard a priest talk about this and saying those things to somebody who is grieving is practicing bad spirituality. And I really agree with that priest. Again, you're trying to make yourself feel better because it's hard to see someone we care about in pain. So we just want their pain to go away. But by offering these spiritual platitudes, it's almost as though it's okay that they died because they're in a better place. Or it's okay that they died because they're with God. It's okay that they died because everything happens for a reason. But the thing is, it's not okay that they died, right? It's not okay. And no end justifies that means, right? So don't say that. It's great if you believe that and you can comfort yourself by saying that, but it actually just makes it worse for the person that's hurting. So let's push ourselves to avoid those kind of spiritual platitudes. The other thing that I'm seeing happening a lot is that we could be having grief reactions, even if it's someone we don't know very well. And so if you hear that somebody is really worried about somebody that they don't know very well, or they're really sad about someone's death who they weren't particularly close to, it's really not helpful to be like, but did you really know them? But you guys haven't actually been friends for like years, right? Those things aren't helpful. Again, it shames the person for feeling sad, for feeling worried, and we're all entitled to our feelings. So again, it's probably coming from a well-intentioned place of like, it's uncomfortable for me to see you hurting, so I just want to make the hurt to go away. Please don't cry. I don't really understand why you're upset about this. These are all shame-based reactions that make the person feel like it's not okay to feel the way they're feeling. And the fact of the matter is, we can all feel the way we feel. We're entitled to our feelings. So shaming somebody for their reaction is not helpful. And grief comes in all different forms for all different reasons. So we don't know what somebody's history or experience is. So please don't shame them for how they're feeling. Here's what you can do. You can help hold the pain with them. That's the most important thing that we can do when somebody is worried about a loved one, when someone is grieving a loved one. We can sit with them in their pain and let them know that we love them and they don't have to do this alone. Something to think about. Thanks, guys.